Hello and welcome to another episode of the NHS Pensions Podcast, where we'll be taking you through a specialist topic of the NHS pension scheme and breaking it down so that you can manage your pension, plan for the future and understand the scheme. In this episode, we're going to be focusing on total reward statements, or TRS, and annual benefit statements. So let's get straight in and start by asking Darren, what's the difference between a total reward statement and annual benefit statement?
Thanks, Sharon. Yeah, so the main difference is that the total reward statement is available for people who have access to the online ESR or electronic staff record system. So they can download that one from there, and that has information about their local benefits with their employer, as well as their personal information, and the annual benefit statements included as part of that. Anyone who doesn't have access to the ESR, electronic staff record, would then only get the annual benefit statement, which includes all of the information about their pension.
Okay, so just to be clear, my total reward statement covers all of my employment benefits, but my annual benefit statement covers my pension benefits.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, great. So now that I know about the difference between the two, how do I go about accessing them?
Right, so if you've got access to the electronic staff record, there's a portal where you can pick on that electronic staff record once you've logged in. You can go down and it's called View My TRS. You just click on that and then it'll open up in a separate window for you, and that'll give you all the information that you need. If you don't have access to that, then you would have an annual benefit statement. So to access that one, you can either receive it by paper or by post, or you can access it through the My NHS Pension Portal, which is an electronic portal that you can access through our website. And you can sign up for that if you haven't already signed up, but we have been writing to people to allow them to sign up for that portal.
If I have any issues accessing ESR, who would I speak to about getting access to my statement?
Well, ESR is a system that we don't have access to at NHS Pensions, so you would be best speaking to your employer. Then you can contact us on the dedicated page on our website. There's a page all about the My NHS Pension Portal, and it tells you how to access that and how to contact us. There's a contact us form, and there's also a dedicated email address for that.
If I have any problems accessing my ESR, I can find out more on the website.
That's right, yeah. ESR is your employer, and the website, My NHS Pension, would be through our website, yes.
Perfect, thank you. Darren, you've just mentioned a little bit about the My NHS Pension Portal, but could you tell me more about it?
Yeah, of course. The My NHS Pension Portal is where you can actually view your personal details and your membership details. You can also view obviously your annual benefit statements on there with all that information. And you can also do additional things like update your personal details and your nominations through that portal as well.
Okay, and you mentioned something about a letter for signing up to the portal.
Yeah.
What if I don't receive the letter or haven't received it?
Yeah, so if you've not received that, then you can contact us through the information that's available on our website. There is a form you can fill out, and you just choose the My NHS Pension within that electronic form, or otherwise you can actually email us on the dedicated email address, and we can send those registration details out for you to be able to register for that. And we would recommend that everybody does register for it as well.
Just talking about my pension record, how often is it actually updated?
Okay, so they're updated annually, and that's with information up to the 31st of March. And we have to receive that information over to us from the employers by the end of May, and then that is updated later in the year.
Okay, and I also understand that it's slightly different for officers and practitioners, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So officers are always done up to the most recent 31st of March date, whereas practitioners are always a year behind just because of the way that their contributions are submitted.
Will the statement show how my 2015 benefits will grow over time?
No, there's no projections included in the statements. However, it will show how the pension earned has been revalued each year, with the Treasury order plus 1.5%. If you were to leave the scheme, that revaluation does stop and is replaced at retirement by pensions increases.
Now, you've just mentioned something about a Treasury order. Can you tell me exactly what that is?
So the Treasury order is supplied to us by His Majesty's Treasury, and that's supplied every year, and that's the amount that the pension that you've built up actually grows by, and it revalues each of the previous pots by that amount plus 1.5%.
If I were, say, in more than one section of the scheme, for example, 2008 and 2015, how would I access my statements there?
So your statement will have different tabs for each section or scheme that you're a member of. So you would just click on the tab that was appropriate to that section or scheme, and that will give you the information about that particular pension pot for you.
I understand that for some members who may be affected by the Public Service Pensions Remedy, also known as McCloud, they might see their statements slightly different to others. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So they'll be given two options on their statements. So they'll have option A and option B. But however, that won't need to come into play until they actually come to take their pension later on, and they'll have a choice at retirement when they actually come to claim the pension.
Okay, and am I right in thinking that they can only take either option A or option B? They can't mix and match?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Now that I know what I can expect to see in my statement, can you tell me about what won't be included?
Yes, there is a few things that won't be included. Firstly, there's additional pension or early retirement reduction buyout, which is also known as NERBO. If you've got an arrangement in either of those, the amounts you've actually paid will be shown on the statement, but the actual totals won't be included in the overall totals. There's also, if you've previously applied for protection of pay in relation to the 1995 section benefits, that will not be accounted for on the statement, as also will not be any credit or debit as a result of a divorce. If you have an election for scheme pays as well, this deduction is also not shown or included on the annual benefit statement.
We hope you're enjoying the latest episode of the NHS Pensions podcast. As an NHS Pensions member or employer, if you're interested in having your say on how we can make improvements to the NHS Pension Service, we have opportunities for you to join our research panel. Through our research panel, we aim to collect feedback, helping us shape and improve the services we provide. Scan the QR code on the screen now, or if you're listening via audio, please visit the link in the description to sign up. Let's get back to the podcast.
What do I do if information on my statement is missing?
Okay, so the first thing you need to do is, if you're contributing to the scheme currently, you would contact your HR, payroll or pensions officer in the first instance directly. In England, if you're a GP or a non-GP provider, then you would need to contact Primary Care Support England or PCSE in the first instance through the PCSE online portal. If you're in Wales and you're a GP and non-GP provider, it will be your local health board that you would contact in the first instance. If you're a dental practitioner, you would contact NHS Dental Services. And if you're still unable to resolve any of those issues, if you can't get that information from those, then you can contact NHS Pensions directly, and then we can work with your employer to try and get those records updated for you.
Okay, so realistically, the first point of call is going to be my HR, payroll or pensions provider?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And there's also just to point out that if there are any arrangements or updates are done to your record before the next refresh, they won't show on your statement straight away. Your statement will have to be refreshed for those to actually be applied to your annual benefit statement or total reward statement.
What would happen if I wasn't working for the NHS any longer or contributing to the scheme?
So we would then recommend that you contact NHS Pensions directly, and then we can take that up for you and investigate.
Are there any occasions where I won't receive an annual benefit statement?
Yes, there are. If you're already receiving part or all of your NHS pension scheme benefits, if you're not a member of the NHS pension scheme, you're a new member of the NHS pension scheme with less than 1 year's membership, you join the scheme after the 31st of March, which is out of date for the year's annual benefit statement cut-off. Your membership record has not been updated by your employer, which means that we can't have the information to calculate your annual benefit statement. Your identifying information, such as name or address, has been mismatched with what is on your NHS pension record, which then means your annual benefit statement can't be displayed. your pension record is too complex or further investigation is required, and you should then contact your employer for an estimate. You can have taken partial or flexible retirement. You've opted out of the scheme with less than 2 years qualifying membership. Your personal details held by us do not match your employer, or you've got a complicated record. For example, you've been working in more than one NHS job.
Moving on, Darren, can I use my total reward statement for early retirement planning?
Yes, you can. We actually have a retirement calculator online for this purpose, but it's really important that you do read the guidance that's supplied with that, as it does talk you through, how to use the calculator. And we do recommend that you have your total reward statement or annual benefit statement with you, as you will need the figures from that to put into the calculator for early retirement planning.
It's really important then for members to keep their contact details up to date even when they've retired?
That's correct, yeah. If you are an active member, you can actually do this through ESR or your employer. If you are a deferred or pensioner member, this can be done through the NHS Pension Portal that we mentioned earlier in the podcast.
So Darren, how can I track what my pension is actually worth?
So by downloading and keeping your annual statements, you can actually see the continuous growth of your pension throughout your employment.
Thanks for that, Darren. And finally, where do I go if I need any further information?
So we do have a dedicated total reward statement page on our website, and also you can contact us via the member helpline or the member email address.
Thanks, Darren, for joining us today. And if you head over to the NHS website, you'll find more information on everything we've talked about.